think it's legal to, if
Anyway.
part 107, no, I don't think it's legal to do it at night.
That's the other thing that they were looking at, is that and they said most of that, a lot of that activity was around the jail. I thought that was interesting too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No. Well, I'm sure that once police, once if it gets implemented, they'll have some stuff to be looking at, I guess. I'll put it that way. How about that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Well, it is almost 10 after 10, so let's get started. We're recording now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are.
And then we've got chat going on. Okay. So this is the fourth clinic. This is the agenda for the fourth clinic. There's an introduction and welcome, and we kind of have had that. Then we're going to talk about how important it is to show up at the tournaments. We're going to talk about the tournament schedule. We're going to talk about the games. Then Tony is going to talk about the design presentation. We're going to take a short break. We'll have the project management presentation discussion, and then we'll handle some questions and answers. So this is the last coaches clinic. So I'd like it to be a little bit more informal. And if you've got any questions or anything like that, please stick them into the chat whenever you like, and hopefully sooner is better, so that we can respond to it. Don't feel bad about interrupting. Once again, we're going to be looking for a lot of your input on this coaches clinic, probably a little bit more than in the other coaches clinic. So just be aware of that. And we have this recorded, right, Doug? Cool. All right. So once again, welcome. Congratulations on making it this far. This is the last of the coaches clinics. We are going to start our registration probably next week. And we are also going to have all of the rules hopefully in a manual by next week. We're going to do a lot of web upgrades and updates in the next week. So look for that, and please be prepared to start your registration process and start working with your kids on the competition itself. So this is about the tournament.
Hey, Ken,
Yeah.
and it might just be my computer, but I'd lost the view of your screen. It looks like I just have like a little slice. Does anybody else see that?
Yeah, that's the same with me. There's just a little slice. Maybe reshare.
Yeah, there you go. I think maybe you moved a win. There you go.
Okay. So
I can see it now.
Oh,
It's okay.
it's not doing well with sharing screens, but all right. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'm going to go over tournament preparation, tournament schedule, review of the rules, typical rookie mistakes, and be sure to do's for the competitions. So that's what I'm going to talk about right now. So the first and most important rule is to show up. So a lot of this is the biggest rookie mistake there is. Whether you have a drone that works or not, whether you think you will do well or not, whether you feel good that day or not, show up. So that is rule number one. A lot of rookie teams may not feel like they're ready, and that's okay. Show up, because the competition is as much a drone and education community event as it is a competition. So there's a lot of activity going on. There are a lot of people there that you should meet, your kids should meet. And there's lots and lots of community support there. And it's a wonderful way to motivate your students to continue to work on the drone. So if you have a drone that doesn't work and you've been frustrated because your drone doesn't work, if you bring it to the competition, it will probably be working by the end of the day. Because there's other teams that probably want to work with you and probably want to look at your drone and troubleshoot your drone. And they all know how these drones work. They actually get some extra points if they help you. Also, it's a wonderful time just to see what other teams have done. And a lot of teams come away going, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or that was so easy to do. Why didn't we think of that? And other types of things. So you're going to find at any tournament lots of willing helpers, lots of people who can give you good advice, lots of opportunities to learn. So whether you are ready for the competition or not, just show up. This is a fairly common issue. A lot of teachers will say, well, I'm not going to be able to compete well. And they go to the tournament and suddenly they end up in the middle of the pack. They weren't as bad as they thought. They will go to the tournament. I mean, they will think that, well, my drone's not working or something like that. If they go to the tournament, once again, their drone will probably be working by the end of the day. And your students will be much more excited about the competition than if you didn't go at all. So go to the competition. You're going to learn a lot. Your students will be motivated for the next year. If you're having difficulty or anything else, just show up. That is the most important thing you can do for this tournament and for this competition. So that's rule number one. Then this is another major rule. Make sure you are prepared for all 4 events. Don't just be prepared for the game. That's a typical rookie mistake. They get so engaged in the game that they forget that there is an engineering process competition, and that there's a drone design presentation that's also in the during the tournament. So you could end up doing extremely well in the games and still not come away with one of the major awards in the competition because you didn't do the other 2 events. So you need to be prepared for all 4 events. Be sure that they know that. So this is kind of what you need to do prior to the competition. And then it's very, very important that you practice the tournament. So we recommended in the first coaches clinic that you prepare for you have a project plan, you create Gantt charts, you have a calendar of events and calendars of things to do. You probably want to have, you probably need to have your strategy prepared in the first week of this semester, or the game preparation. You need to have your drone design probably in the second week. And then in the third and fourth week, you need to be putting your drone together. And in the 5th week, you need to start testing it and flying it and checking it against the rules and checking it against the competitions. So it's important to, and that means you have you have half your season to troubleshoot your drone, know all your parts really, really well, understand when they're going to break down, when they're not going to break down, how they function, how well they function with weight, and all the different things you need to understand. So you need to know all of your parts. You need to know the flight controller. You need to know the software that controls the flight controller. You need to know the Q ground control. the autonomous control. You need to understand the radios and when the radios are going to interfere with each other. And you just need to understand the whole dynamics of the drone by flying it over and over again, testing everything over and over again, and then practicing the competition. Unfortunately, and it's probably going to be the case for this competition with regards to the game, at least the line of sight game, the better your pilot is, the better you'll do. Your mechanisms are good only as if they can be used properly by your pilot. So your pilots really need to practice and practice and practice and practice. And the more practice they get, the better they'll be, no matter what you've designed your drone to do. So they need to do lots and lots of practice. You probably have to have everything kind of designed and ready to try out about halfway through your prep time, and then just do everything. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to practice, you have to get your obstacles. You've got to get the stuff for the game. So that's a 5-gallon bucket and a swimming pool. So those are the things you probably want to get as soon as possible, so you can test those things. And then you probably want to find a football field that you can practice on, and then practice as soon as you can. So you need to be prepared for the tournament. Being prepared for the tournament means you need to anticipate weather delays. So it's possible, hopefully it won't happen, but it's very possible, because this is an outdoor competition, that there may be weather delays. That means that the competition is scheduled from 9 to 4, and because the wind kicked up in the afternoon, you may have to go a little later in the day. If it's going to start raining heavily on that day, or it's going to be a really windy day, you may have to delay to the next day. If you've done any outdoor, maybe any outdoor competitions, and especially things like the rocket competitions that are outdoors, you know that these delays happen because of wind shears or wind issues or rain or anything like that. So if you can look at the weather the week before and see if there's any cold fronts coming in during the competition day, then you could anticipate probably a delay of some sort. And then you need to tell the parents with regards to travel and other types of things, there may be a delay. The tournament people should be on top of that and be able to warn you about that. The tournament organizers should be able to make sure that they have a contingency plan in case of high winds or rain, but you should also be able to be flexible with regards to the tournament date. That's kind of an unusual thing with us with this competition. I don't know if, I guess some athletic events, it's important that you watch the weather too. But I guess they'll play in a light rain. They won't play in lightning or anything, and we won't have our competitions when there's potential for lightning either. But be aware of that. Bring everything you need for every possible problem, because the second most important rule of drone competitions is that drones crash. So you need to bring extra parts in case your drone crashes at the competition. So make sure you bring your drone, make sure that it is compliant and ready for inspection, and make sure you have extra batteries, extra chargers, extra propellers, extra motors, and computer chargers too. Don't forget the computer chargers, because you don't want your computer going down. You need to also make sure you bring your props for your design presentation and your props for your project management presentation. I highly recommend a checklist. So as you're sitting at the cars or sitting outside of your classroom, you just go through the checklist and make sure that you have everything you need before you go. It's kind of the same type of checklist that NASA goes through before a launch. So, they say flight ready, hydrogen tanks ready, etc. Check, 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 check. You want to do the same thing at your school sites to make sure you have everything you need for the competition, which is extra parts, batteries for sure, and charged batteries is even more important. You should have extra batteries, and you need to have lots of extra parts, so that if something goes wrong, if something breaks, you are not out of the competition at that point. And then also, if you've got Part 107 certificates, your students have Part 107 certificates, make sure that they bring them. So either you have a certificate or they have a certificate. Try to have your Part 107 certificates with you so that you can show them at the competition. So the line of sight game, just a sec. Why don't I thought I had. No? Okay. So I thought I had the tournament schedule. Let me go over the tournament schedule. So a typical tournament schedule is going to be from 9 o'clock until 4 p.m. And the best thing to do is to arrive early so that you can get your registration done. You can set up in the pit and you'll be ready to go. So if the tournament schedule is from 9 to 4, be there by 8. And then you can get your inspection done, hopefully early, and you can get your registration completed. And then you'll be ready for the games when they begin. So I think what we're going to try to do is to get the games started fairly early in the day, because if you understand anything about flying, you know that the air is more steady in the morning. And then as the afternoon goes on, the air becomes a little bit more crazy. So these things are going to be in the rules, but it doesn't hurt to kind of go over them one more time. And if you have any questions about it, please feel free to bring it up in the chat or before the chat. Yeah, Tony, you're absolutely right on the certificate. And Eric, good question. Not everybody needs it, but it would be best to have one person on every team to have it. But it's good to have in any case. So you probably want somebody to prep for it or to be well aware of the rules and regulations regarding drones for drones in general, or the Part 107 requirements. So you get there probably around 8, you go through your inspection. It's a quick inspection. Hopefully it'll be a quick inspection. If you haven't been following the rules, if you haven't read the rules real carefully, you may have to make a modification to compete. So be sure you know the rules, be sure you check the rules, because there will be an inspection at the very beginning that will be kind of a go, no go on you participating in the competition, participating in the games, etc. So try to make sure your drone complies with all the rules, because there will be a check for that. And then you're going to have a schedule, and the schedule is going to integrate your presentations and the games into a single schedule that is going to go primarily from like 9:30 until 3 o'clock, 3:30. So you're going to have to be on top of that schedule. You need to understand where you need to be at all times. You're going to have one presentation for the design review, one presentation for your project planning and your project management. And then you're going to have 3 events where you are doing the line of sight, and then 3 events where you are doing the autonomous. The events themselves take 3 minutes to accomplish. And then there's going to be a reset, and then the next team goes. We recommend that if you are going to compete at 9 o'clock, then you get to the field 15 minutes in advance. So get to the field 15 minutes in advance of each of your competition events, and then also be at your presentations 15 minutes in advance as well. So when you see where you are on the schedule, make sure you fill in about 15 minutes of, oh, I need to be there at this time, not later. So we're going to have cuers, hopefully making sure that you get to where you're supposed to be. But if you don't see a cure, that doesn't mean you're not supposed to be there. You need to kind of watch that schedule and be where you need to be at all times. And if you start counting up how many of 15-minute things you have here, you've got 6 different games that you have to be in, and you have 2 different presentations. So that's 8 different 15-minute sections, which is 2 hours of being on. And then the rest of the time you have to maybe fix your drone if you need to do that, or do other types of things. But don't assume you have much of any time to do anything else. Don't assume that you're going to be able to modify your drone. Don't assume that you're going to be able to modify your software. In fact, those are really bad ideas during your competition. If you start messing with your drone, you're very likely to ruin your chances in your later events. So try not to do that. Okay. And then there will be an award ceremony near the end. So does anybody have any questions about the tournament schedule, when to be there and all those things? Okay, so the presentations are going to take, you're going to have 5 to 6 minutes to make a presentation. The judges will have 4 minutes to ask you questions after your presentations, and then they'll have 5 minutes of deliberation after your presentations. So they're going to probably kick you out after 10 minutes and need to deliberate on what you have, and then the next team comes in. So you don't have a lot of time to do your presentations. I know Doug and Tony are probably going to talk about that in much more detail. But 6 minutes will go by really, really fast, and you need to know exactly what you're going to say during each of those minutes. So be prepared for that. So this is the tournament schedule. With no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and go into some of the information about the line of sight. So the manual for this competition is going to be available hopefully at the end of this week. It's going to be a PDF. You can download it, and then you'll be able to ask questions as you see fit. After reading over all of the questions, we'll probably have kind of an open time for a month when we may change the rules to a certain extent. But after the end of that month, there won't be any changes in the rules. We can qualify them according to official statements. after that, but the rules will probably not change. So if there's still a big loophole sitting there that you know of, it's probably that loophole is probably going to stay there, and other types of things. So there'll be kind of a month of cleaning up the rules for the autonomous and for the stock drones, and we may have to qualify the field parts a little bit, but that's how that's going to go. Okay, so the line of sight game is you're going to have a stock drone. That's one of the things that you need to be. Wait a minute. Do I have another slide? No, I thought I moved these things. Yeah, let me find this. Oh, no. I thought, oh, here. This is a slide I wanted to talk to. So there's a question. Eric was asking, what is the dates? The registration is $500. We're going to open registration this next week. The date we are currently thinking about is June 11th, 2022. So I actually wanted to get feedback from you guys about that. So from what I heard, and I've gotten a kind of a blackout period for Fort Worth DISD's buses, and there's a blackout period after April 25th. So our options are sometime before April 25th or sometime in the summer. So we were thinking that maybe we would do this in the summer. That would mean that your students would have to make their own way to the competition site for the competition. June is good for a number of reasons. June means that school is out not only in Texas, but also in Chicago and other places. June means that the atmosphere is going to be a little more settled in the summertime. June is a good time to tack this onto a teacher professional development. But June is outside of the school time. So that could be a problem for some people. Now, I'm already in discussions with some places to possibly do a scrimmage in April around the 23rd of April. I think Tony is actually going to do a scrimmage in Chicago, in the Chicago area on April 23rd. I think
May 21st.
On the 21st? Is 21st a Saturday?
May 21st is a Saturday. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to do it May 21st. Oh,
May 21st. Yes. Yeah. April, it's still, it's rainy. Could be chilly. It could be 75 degrees or it could be 35 degrees. And the wind will probably be blowing pretty hard still.
Yeah. So I'd kind of like to open it up to you guys. What do you think about the June 11th? Is that a go no? Is that like a no-go for you? So Catherine, where are you? Can you unmute? Oh, okay, Fort Worth. Okay, it's Fort Worth ISD. All right. Hey, John, what do you think? Is that just a no-go with DISD because it's late?
No, we should be able to do it as long as we get the schedule in. We should be able to do it.
Okay, good. Okay, so Fort Worth ISD cannot do it at all, Catherine? Is that Terrell or is that all the schools around? Okay. Yeah, doing it in April is early. The air might not be that stable, even in Dallas. And it's not giving you as much time to prepare. So, okay, that's good to hear, Leslie. Thank you.
Yeah, Ken, if there's sufficient interest, you know, I'm based in Dallas. So if there's sufficient interest, our school can still host something during that weekend, that the same weekend that Tony's holding his tournaments out in Chicago. So we were looking at Sunday instead of a Saturday, because that's right after all of our IB exams and AP exams and all that sort of stuff. So if there's sufficient interest, we can still do that in Dallas. And that would be, you know, May 22nd.
Well,
Yeah. So,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ken.
well, I was just wondering if John, which would be better for DISD, May 21st or June 11th? Because I know Catherine, your buses are blacked out between April 25th and the end of school, as I understand. Oh, yeah. So what's interesting is that there's actually a Raytheon college level Oh, that's unfortunate too. Good grief. Fort Worth is not being helpful here. Okay, interesting. All right, well, those are good things to think about. It sounds like DISD, it works okay. And I think there's a lot of teams that will still be okay in June 11th, but we will probably try to work out something else. Yeah, it sounds like we need to do something in April. Yeah, we might be able to do something in April as a scrimmage. UT Arlington has an event going on that we could probably dovetail with, and then Crowley is very interested in possibly helping out with a competition or a scrimmage type of a thing for Texas. Do we have somebody from Crowley here? Is that we don't have anybody there. Okay, but we're going to work on that. But at the moment, the official date is June 11th, 2022. If you, as soon as we open the registration, if that's not going to work for you, please complain, and we will we'll see what we can do to accommodate your school. So we've already heard kind of a big concern from Fort Worth. We're working on an April date to make that work for you. We've already heard about that issue. We'll see what we can do there. You need to get a drone as soon as you can. If you've already got a drone, great. Make sure you take a look at all of the different parts that you need and the stock requirements for all of this. And you probably need to have a second drone at least. So the second rule to expect is crashes. You expect to have a crash, therefore you probably need extra parts. It would be a good idea to have 2 drones. If you bring 2 drones to the competition, one is going to be tagged as inspected what they're going to do is put a little tag on it, and then the tag is going to be attached using a zip tie. You have to make sure that tag is there, because if it's not, then the referees won't allow you to compete. You won't allow you to be at the starting line for either one of the games. So make sure that you keep that on there. Don't take it off, and don't put it on your second drone, because that will be a big no-no. You probably want to start buying the field parts. The field parts are available at Walmart. They are very inexpensive. Walmart or Home Depot buckets cost, I think, around $5 to $6. The swimming pool, if you get it from Walmart, is around $36. You should look at Amazon or Walmart right now. I do not online, because I don't think that they have them in stock. Walmart probably doesn't have them in stock right now, but you can probably get them online. So you'd probably have to go online. You should expect to wait for the amount of time that it takes to mail it, which probably should be pretty quickly. And then you'll have your field parts. Then you also need a football field to practice on, or something like that outdoors. And then you need to be prepared to travel to the tournament and championship, if to just figure out how all the travel is going to happen for your team. Any questions about that? Okay. These are the parts you need. You need the bucket, you need the pool, and you need the bucket, you need the golf balls, and you need the swimming pool. And this is the line of sight. And just to go over this real quickly again, you're going to start on the target here, the H. That's your starting spot and your ending spot. The way the rules go is that we're really the rules encourage you to put balls into each one of these targets. So the targets are essentially going to be on the corners of the field. You need to load up your drone with these wiffle golf balls. And then you put the golf balls into the swimming pools or into the buckets. So the bucket is going to be in the middle of the swimming pool. It's a smaller target than the bigger swimming pool. So if you make the golf balls, if these golf ball wiffle balls make it into the wading pool here, you get 1 point. If you can get the golf ball wiffle balls to land in the bucket, which is a much smaller target, you get 5 points. So for every golf ball you get in here, 5 points. For every golf ball you get here, you get 1 point. If you get golf balls in 2 of the targets, then you can get a multiplier. 2 or more of the targets gives you a multiplier. So once again, it encourages you to go to more than one target and dump all your golf balls. So if you can dump golf balls in the first target, and then dump golf balls in the second target, and then dump golf balls in the third target, and then put some golf balls in the fourth target, then you are going to get a multiple of however many targets you've put golf balls. So if you've got four targets filled, or with 1 golf ball at least, then you get a multiplier of 4. And that is a multiplier of 4 of the points. So if you've got balls in the bucket and balls in the pool, then whatever the total amount of points are gets multiplied by the number of targets you've hit. And then on top of that, if you've scored in multiple targets, the target with the least number of golf balls is a multiplier too. So say you put 10 golf balls in the first target, 8 golf balls in the second target, and you put 2 golf balls in the third target, you would get however many points you got with the golf balls multiplied by 3, because you've got 3 targets. and then you'd be able to multiply by 2 because that is the smallest number that you've gotten in one of the targets. So it doesn't, if you get 20 balls in the first target, you still don't get to multiply your score by 20. You have to have multiple targets filled to get that multiplier. But you can get a multiplier by the smallest number of points in a target. And then finally, you can get 10 points by getting back to the starting point and landing. So if you can get back before the 3 minutes is over, you get an extra 10 points. If you never even move, you get 10 points. So that's how that is scored. Does anybody have any questions about scoring on the line of sight? No? Good. Hope that's crystal clear. Not sure that it is, but I hope it's pretty good. So this is the autonomous. So the way the autonomous is going to go is that you are going to learn what the autonomous course for you is going to look like at the tournament. So you're not going to know in advance. So what you're going to have to do, however, with regards to the waypoint navigation, is this is autonomous. You have to use your Q ground control to program your drone to accomplish the task. You're going to have to get to different waypoints, and you may have to avoid obstacles on the way. So you may have to add in extra waypoints to avoid the obstacles. And then you're going to have a channel or you're going to have to stay within a path. So you're going to have, you can't deviate from that path by more than like, the path itself is going to be about 10 feet wide. And the path itself will have a height limit as well. And it's probably not going to be very high. It's probably going to be around 10 to 15 feet. So we may have pylons that you have to avoid and get around. And we may have things that you just have to fly over, but there is going to be an altitude limit, and there's going to be a kind of a right-left limit as a pathway to get to the different waypoints. So your scores will be dependent on how well you stay within that pathway, how well you stay at that altitude, and how well you get through the obstacles. If you miss an obstacle, that's going to cost you, but it's all going to be through an autonomous ground control programming on the day of the event. So the way to prepare for this is to make sure you understand the programming completely at your home school, and you can do a variety of different things using waypoints and a controlled pathway, controlled altitude, etc. Okay. So any questions on that? We can't tell you exactly what it's going to be because it will change on the day of the event. It may change from team to team. We haven't decided on that yet. No questions? Speak up if you have them. All right. And we'll move on. Let's make sure. So these are the games. You know how to do that. You understand the tournament schedule. So these are kind of a review. Rookie mistakes. Make sure you show up. That's just critical. Be there. Be sure you're there. Don't forget your batteries. And if you've got batteries and you don't have chargers, that's not good. So make sure you have your chargers and your batteries so that when you compete, you're going to have fresh batteries, and your drone is going to respond the way you anticipate it will respond. Because if you have almost drained batteries, your drone may die, which is bad. It may auto return. It may do all kinds of interesting things that you don't want it to do. So make sure you have your batteries charged and your chargers ready to charge them. Make sure you have all the extra parts you need in case you have a crash. You need to know the rules inside and out. It is a really bad thing to come to a tournament and have the referees go, "Oh, you can't do that. What are you doing?" The rules say this, because if that happens, then everything you plan for is going to be a little bit off. So make sure you know the rules and follow the rules as well as you can, or it may not go as well as you'd hoped at the competition. So I always have somebody who's responsible for knowing the rules. And that means that you know that there are presentations coming up too, that you have 4 different events that you have to prepare for properly. So make sure you're prepared for the presentations, make sure you're prepared for the games, make sure you have everything you need. You probably do not want to fiddle around with your drone design during the competition. If you do that, it generally doesn't go well. So try not to fiddle with your drone during the competition. Work out any of your issues before that. And make sure you know your schedule, make sure people are reminding you of your schedule, and make sure you're at your events when you're supposed to be. Okay. So these are things you definitely want to do. Meet as many teams as you can. They can really help you out at the tournament and during the seasons. So get to know as many coaches as you can. I've already heard a lot of the Austin coaches talking to other Austin coaches, and the Fort Worth coaches talking to other Fort Worth coaches, and the Dallas coaches talking to other Dallas coaches. That's really important because this is a community. The knowledge within the community is far greater than the knowledge that any one team has. Bring as many team members as you can to gather as much information as you can. Learn as much as you can from the successful teams. A lot of teams will have scouting reports. This team could do this. This team could do that. This was what they did. Go ask them if that seems like a cool thing. How did you do that? And they'll probably be very happy to share. If you've got problems, other teams will be very happy to help you troubleshoot because it gives them the experience of troubleshooting. And if you can help others with troubleshooting, that's going to help you with your your project planning or your project management score. So helping other teams is very important too. And then you want to celebrate the other teams for their accomplishments and how well they do too. This is all about good sportsmanship, but good sportsmanship leads to good friends, and good friends leads to good information, and good information leads to winning teams. So get to know as many people as you can. The tournament is a wonderful place to do that. Definitely do these things. Scout the other teams, know the other teams, make friends. Any questions? Okay, I went long. So why don't we take a quick break, and then Tony is going to present on the design project, and then Doug will talk more about the project planning or project management award, and then we will take more questions, any questions you might have. Okay, so let's take a break.
Back in 5?
Back in 5, yes.
All right.
We'll
Just
see
enough
you
time to
at
make a cup of coffee.
11:05. Sounds good. Or have one of those Chicago dogs.
So the mechanics that and the procedures are very similar to robotics competitions. I've taken some students to robotics competitions. In this case, what grade level or what ages are we talking about for the kids?
This is primarily high school. So these are a little bit more complex than we think middle school would enjoy. So Atello, like you were saying, is kind of what we refer to as a buy and fly. So you buy it and you can fly it immediately. The drones that we're working with are a little more complex. You have to put them together. Even if you buy them together, you're going to have to put the parts together. You're going to have to put the motors, the cameras, and all that sort of stuff together.
Similar to what we do with the robots.
Exactly. So you can either purchase a stock drone and you can put it all together and it will be ready to compete. Or you can just buy the parts and put it together however you want. Probably you want to get a stock drone first, just to see how it all goes together. And then you can start modifying that body and the propellers and the motors and other things like that. So I would recommend, if you've never done it before, you get a stock drone that is going to match the specs for the competition. We have a few of those recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right. So Tony Tegmeyer is here. He's from Chicago, and he is going to be running a scrimmage up in Chicago. And he is going to tell us a little bit more about the design presentation. So Tony, go for it.
All right. Well, my name's Tony Tegmeyer, as hold on here. Let me get my right screen. I think I was getting there. You should be, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Okay, good. It was backwards there for a second. So I'm Tony Tegmeyer. I'm from suburban Chicago and running the tournament / scrimmage up here. And Ken went through went through a lot and covered 2 of the competitions, which are an autonomous game component and a line of sight. I'm going to cover one, and Doug Lee, who's going to come after me, is going to cover one. And those 2 are also very closely related, and they regard the design process. And Doug is going to talk more about the actual process or the project management. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the actual design. So I think a lot of you are probably familiar, at least in some form or fashion, with the engineering design process. And it depends. You can Google engineering design process and look at images and find 500 different things. You can find anything from 5 steps to 12 steps, but if you really kind of peel back the onion and look at the core, they all, whether it's 5 steps or 12 steps, they all kind of really accomplish the same thing. And that's what I've really tried to capture here. And this is essentially what I share with my kids. It is a process, but I put it in a circle because it's not a linear process. At any time, and I should probably have more arrows on here, you could go back to another part of the process. But it starts with defining and understanding the problem. Here, we understand the problem because we're given criteria, constraints on how big the drone can be. We're given game rules and so on. So we have the problem defined for us. And then we want to brainstorm solutions, come up with all kinds of crazy, wacky ideas. And for me, this has always been and I'm a recovering year now teacher. Brainstorming was always one of my favorite activities, where we would shut ourselves in a room and have post-it notes all over the place. They would deliver pizza, slip notes under the door, and check and see if we were still alive. That was always fun. But really, the output there is you have to eventually, when you're done coming up with all these ideas, use some logic. And rank them somehow. And the way we have always done that is a tool called the decision matrix. I really stress with my kids, my students all the time, that the best idea is not always your favorite. And the best idea is not always accomplishes one specific task, but it does everything well. And I think that's what a decision matrix does really well. Then from there, you want to find out what you're going to purchase or make, and really get into the nitty-gritty details of the solution itself. Because before you were talking about theory and ideas, well, now you're really going to make the plan to put it together. So that's what the drawings and schematics are going to do. Then you get all your parts, you're going to build it and test it. So the students should have a build plan. How are we going to put this thing together? Because it probably makes sense to, you're not going to put all the electronics together and then add the frame. That just doesn't make sense. So they're going to have to put together a build plan and also a test plan. And I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. Then you're going to want to test it and look at the results, and then share. I say share a report, and that's really just the communication, and that is the presentation part of the competition. So all of those things your students should be documenting, and Doug's going to talk a little bit about that too, on how to do that. So the way that the design is going to be evaluated by judges is through the design, development, and test plans, presentations, and videos. So we will publish on our website soon the actual rubric with points and stuff. We're still kind of discussing and debating and amongst ourselves on how to best do that, because it's easy to talk about it, but now how do we assign values to or to understand what's better than something else? So we will be putting those up on our website soon. So the design, development, and test plans. Some examples: flight controllers. Why did your team choose the particular flight controller that they did? There should be a decision matrix about that. There should be some thought process that shows how they do that. Probably the components where they're going to should show the most math and science would be propellers, motors, and ESCs. There's a lot of electrical engineering there. There's a lot of mechanical engineering there. There's aerodynamics. And that can be pretty detailed. It should be pretty detailed. But in the detailed design, those would be things that we're looking for. Wiring and circuit diagrams and schematics. So they should really good drawings. How do all of these things go together? Some of you probably have, or a lot of you probably have, whether it's AutoCAD, whatever drawing package you might have at school. Highly recommend that students learn that and use that. And then you're going to want to present a bill of materials. And even if you buy a stock drone, in our approach, Ken had mentioned to buy a stock drone first, and that's been our that is going to be our experience. We have a stock drone, and our approach is going to be to evaluate that, but then also go back and do a lot of these calculations to prove or disprove that that stock drone is really what we want. And then I'm going to also encourage our kids to buy different parts and compare them to the stock drone. So we're going to create a bill of material. In the real world, you look at, do you make a part or do you buy a part? I go through, I teach a capstone class in engineering design. And this is where we are at now. It's not drones, it's a different class. Kids really don't know how to order parts. They've never really been exposed to that. Even things such as fasteners. We have a whole discussion on fasteners and what is a fastener. Yes, it's a nut, a bolt, and a screw, and even glue. How do you choose the right things? It's kind of interesting how students really don't think of those things, but those details are really important. You need to consider costs and present costs. Maybe you have deep pockets, and that's good. But most teams are going to want to show that they took cost into account and that they have a budget and can meet that budget. And then finally, engineering charts, graphs, and I mentioned here the motors, props, and servos. You can go out to Amazon right now or in a lot of different places and buy something. How do you know? How do you prove that that choice was the best for your design? And that's where the whole engineering design process comes into play. So showing what you did with charts, graphs, math, whether it's spreadsheets, whatever evidence that team feels is appropriate, they should expect to have that in their presentation. And then again, I mentioned before, decision matrix. So if you're not familiar with the decision matrix would be looking at, let's take motors, for example. You would have across the top different criteria. You might have what the torque is and what the speed is. You might have the required voltage or current, and then on the rows you would have all the different designs from Acme Corporation, from whomever, all of the different manufacturers, and then you rate each manufacturer for each of those components and come up with the best using some math and logic. So it's not a, hey, this is the cheapest one, or this is the goes the fastest, but which one is the best overall. So that would be an example, high-level example of using decision matrix. So in the design, development, and test plans category, these are the things that we would be looking for. And they'll have to present that evidence in a couple of different ways, through photos. So document from day one, be taking photos and videos of what you're doing to document your progress. We are going to have on our website a photo release for teams and even individuals, that when you submit it, we would really like to use all of the cool things, and we expect a lot of those to be used on our website for promotion, not just for Arise, but to promote you and your teams as well, and in sort of a news section. So expect to do that. There's also going to be a video presentation, which will need to be submitted about a week in advance. And so those dates will be, again, on the website a week before the competition. This would be submitted online, and it gives some of the requirements there. It has to be an MP4, and there will be a whole rubric associated with this as well. And it should show, it mentions here, include successful and failed tests. We do want to know, how did nothing works perfectly, especially with high school, especially with drones. Ken mentioned it, you're going to crash, you're going to break things. Those things happen. How do you overcome that? What is your logical to figure out what happened and how to fix that. So we want to we want to see what your success is and how you arrived at your decision, but how did you overcome failure too? That's a good part of it. And then of course some drone footage. And it should not be just, drone footage and charts, but truly a presentation, almost as if you are in front of an audience. But the video really allows you to pick and choose very carefully what you want to show. And then when you get to the competition, that would be an oral presentation. It's going to be a chance for you to dive a little bit deeper into the details of the design. So this is going to be in front of some of the judges at the competition. And I think Ken alluded to this a little bit. So ideally we'd like 5 minutes for the presentation, 4 to 5 minute Q&A for the judges, and then about another 5-minute deliberation. And so then while they're deliberating, the next team should come up. And it's been my experience through not this competition, because this is our first year, similar engineering design competitions, that it's pretty easy for time to get away from us. And so we'll probably have sort of a time master, timekeeper that's going to crack the whip a little bit and keep us on track, because that can get a little bit out of hand. So gone through a lot so far, and I really don't have anything else other than just some general things. Make sure that everything that's submitted is in electronic format and downloadable. And it's provided prior to the competition. So this is mainly the video component and photos. We're not going to ask for any paper copies of anything. And so when it's provided, a lot of people use Google. I know there's the Microsoft platform out there as well. One thing I always have to remind my students is make sure that it's viewable. So you can share the link, but make sure that it's viewable. That can be a little bit frustrating. And then just Ken had mentioned as well, and I would stress, show up 15 minutes prior to your presentation, the oral presentation, and bring your drone. I think that's a really, really important prop that that you can use your kids can use to explain what they've done. So questions, comments, wise remarks? No wise remarks even. You guys are way too nice. All right, well, thanks.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, there will be a rubric. Make sure you're aware of the rubric. Make sure your students follow the rubric and then are prepared for their presentations when they come. So make sure they have the props, make sure they have a computer if that's what they need to present with, and be there 15 minutes in advance of the actual presentation. Cool. So Doug is now going to talk a little bit about the project management tool, or not the project management tool, but the project management award and the project management event at the tournament.
Hey, fantastic. Hello, everybody. Douglas Lee. I'm based in Dallas. So we have a heavy component of North Texas in this competition, I believe. Is that right, Ken?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to be talking about the project management presentation. So it is quite a bit different than the design presentation, because all we're focused on is how did the project evolve. So what is project management? Here's just a quick definition from Forbes. Project management uses processes, skills, tools, and knowledge to complete a planned project and achieve its goals. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but how do you really convey that to judges, or how do you convey that to your teachers? What were the goals that were achieved? How did the team achieve those goals? What was the result? So as Tony had mentioned, We want to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. All of that is very relevant in terms of how the project evolved. And it will tell you how your team really interacted and how they overcame any kinds of obstacles like that. So how is this judged? We have about a 5 to 6 minute oral presentation to the judges, as Ken had mentioned. First off, what your project managers will want to do is introduce all of the team members and their roles. If you have an organizational structure, absolutely talk about that. So for a team, even for a small team of 4 or 5, all the way up to a team of 10 to 15, there has got to be some sort of organization. So let's talk about their roles. What is their expertise? Do you have sub teams, and do you have team leaders in those sub teams? How is that organized in the team that you have? Briefly, and I do mean very, very briefly, talk about the project plan and timeline. Presumably, all of the engineering teams will have a project plan in the main documentation. So your teams don't really want to talk about the actual Gantt charts here. Just say that, yes, we do have a Gantt chart. Here it is. It's going to be in the documentation. What kind of project management tools were used? Did you use some online tool like Smartsheet or Asana, or did you use Microsoft Project? Anything. What kind of tools did you use? You have to use something to manage the project, because this is, for high school students, this is a huge project. It's a huge deal for them. How did they do it? How did they organize it? How did they manage it? You can use something as simple as Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel to create your Gantt charts. It doesn't matter, as long as they chose something to keep on top of their schedule. What were some of the challenges the team faced? Successes, failures, document that, tell us that. How did they overcome that? That's something that we really want to see. How that tells us, the dynamics of the team. Funding and budget. If your teams don't have to worry about funding, I'm sure they have to worry about budget. Was it on budget? Was it over budget? How did you overcome some of these things? Did you have a separate team that came up with funding? Maybe, maybe not. Or did you have to worry about that? The schedule. We know that schedules change. We know that they need adjustments based on things you can't control. You have your schedule lined up. Everything's going along nicely, and then boom, something happens, like COVID. Well, how did you adjust for it? What did the teams do? Justify the change in schedule. Team building exercises. We know with a lot of student teams, there might be some personality clashes, there might be some egos out there or whatever. What were the team dynamics? Was it functional? Was it dysfunctional? How was it resolved? Personal conflicts between 2 or 3 team members. How did the project manager handle that? Team photo, a team name would be great. A team mission patch or a t-shirt. Those are great team building exercises, and they're fantastic to show at a presentation like this. Images or videos of the team in action. Tony had mentioned brainstorming was one of his favorite activities. That's fantastic. Some great shots, some still shots of the team in a brainstorming session. Your pizza parties. I love pizza parties, in fact. Those sorts of things. Show your successes and show your failures. So notice that in this presentation, we haven't talked about anything about the design elements of the project. We only talked about the project itself. How did it progress? We never talked about anything of drone design. That's all done in the design presentation. We haven't talked about the payload system, the design of that. This is just how was the project managed. We're only interested in how the project progressed. Project management, what kind of tools you used, team building exercises, how did you resolve conflicts? Were there any areas of self-reflection? Project debriefings, or what I like to say is a post-mortem. of your entire project, or a postmortem of your tests as a result of your tests, and so forth. So that's the extent of the project management presentation. So any questions, concerns, or anything, we can talk about that.
Okay, so has anyone been part of a competition before and you understand how these things go? So you have 6 minutes to control the conversation. After that, the judges control the conversation with their questions. So what you need to do in that 6 minutes is to present your best, put your best foot forward. You have control of the conversation. Make sure they bring up the best design components they have. Make sure they talk about the coolest moments of their team experience. Make sure they bring out the very best of their team, whatever that might be, because there's lots and lots of different elements they can focus on. But whatever they focus on in that first 6 minutes is probably what the judges are going to talk about and ask. So make sure that's where they control the conversation. Make sure that controlled piece of the conversation is your best stuff. Okay. I think you probably, if you've been in any of the robotics competitions and other types of things like that, then you probably understand that very well. Any other questions about the rules, the rubrics, when the competition is going to be, how the competition is going to run? Any of those questions? Yeah, Francisco.
A quick question. How about the scoring? Is there a way to keep track of the score during the competition?
We are hopefully going to post the score for the games so you're going to have 3 opportunities, and after each round, we're going to try to post the scores on a screen or something like that. With regards to the design and the project management, those will probably won't have a score like a tally score. You'll just find that out during the award ceremony. Okay, I'm going to put Eric on the spot here. So in the last week and a half, we've learned that Fort Worth is not overly happy about the June event. And I think I talked to you, right, Eric, about possibly doing Crowley?
Actually, I'm just down the road. I'm in Godley.
Oh, you're in Godley.
Yeah, I'm about 15 minutes west of there. And
So,
we haven't for sure figured out if we can fit it into our timeline. This is kind of maybe an exploratory thing for us, getting students scheduled. We already have a class, but getting them to do an after school thing with a bunch of hours and being ready by June, that might be a tough ask. And there's also some budget issues. We might be observing and planning for next year, but I'm going to pitch it to the kiddos and see if they're really, really ready to jump in. But if they're kind of like that, then I'm really maybe going to bring the kids to the competition to watch in hopes of generating some excitement for next year, so that we can do prepping and fundraising all through the fall to do this next year.
all right. So next week, we're going to have registrations for the competitions, and then we're going to also have registration for coaches clinics that we're going to be doing, which are going to be similar to this, except they're kind of an all-in-one and face-to-face type of thing. We're hoping to have a coaches clinic in the Chicago area for Chicago teachers, a coaches clinic in the Dallas area for Dallas teachers, a coaches clinic in the East Coast, and a coaches clinic on the West Coast. So we're planning to do all of those different things, and the registrations will begin hopefully in the next week. There's going to be a lot of website updates that we need to get that we need to accomplish to do that. We'll also have the manual available. And once again, the manual is going to be fluid for the first month. And then it's not going to be fluid at all. It's going to be kind of set at that point. And then, so by the end of February, you'll have all of the rules pretty much set. And then we're probably going to try to have a scrimmage in the April timeframe for the Dallas area. We will have a competition. It sounds like June 11th. And in the Chicago area, we'll probably have an exhibition of some sort in the May time.
What's the time frame on the coaches clinics? Those will be coming up pretty soon, I guess.
Those are going to be in the summertime.
So it'd be after this first competition?
Yes. So it's actually the competition is going to probably be on either the front end or the last part of the coaches clinic. So not only would you be able to learn about how to compete in the competition, but you can actually watch it.
Okay.
That's the idea. Okay. No other questions? All right. So, Catherine, we're going to be working with you, and we're going to try to make sure everything works out with the Fort Worth schools. But it sounds like June 11th is going to be the actual competition. Sure hope you all can make that, and look for the registration, look for notices from Arise about the upcoming registrations, upcoming changes, upcoming teacher trainings, and